All right, let's talk about one of the most powerful ideas out there for self-improvement. It's this concept that real lasting change, it doesn't come from some huge earth-shattering event. Nope, it's actually the result of hundreds of tiny decisions, these little atomic habits that compound over time to create something truly remarkable.
So check out the math on this because it's kind of mind-blowing. If you were to get just 1% better at something each day for a year, you wouldn't just be 365% better. Because of compounding, you end up over 37 times better. It's this quiet, invisible process that just builds and builds into something incredible.
But here's the kicker. The math works just as powerfully in the other direction. If you get 1% worse each day, you skip the gym, you eat junk food, you put things off, by the end of the year, you've basically eroded your skills down to almost zero. It shows how these tiny, seemingly harmless choices can add up to a huge problem.
Now, this whole idea has a name, the aggregation of marginal gains. It's just a fancy way of saying you look for a tiny margin of improvement in everything you do. And there's this famous story about how this exact philosophy took the British cycling team from being a total joke to an absolute powerhouse.
So picture this. For almost a century, British cycling was just mediocre. They'd won a single gold medal in over 100 years. No Tour de France wins, nothing. But then a new director, Dave Brailsford, came in with this wild idea. He said, let's break down everything that goes into riding a bike and just improve every single piece by 1%. And I mean everything. They found the perfect massage gel, figured out the best pillow for each rider to get a good night's sleep. And the results? They were just staggering. All those tiny gains added up to total dominance in the sport. So you're probably thinking, okay, if 1% improvements are so powerful, why is it so hard to stick with them? Why do we always give up? Well, it's because we expect progress to look like a straight line, but it almost never does. There's always this period where it feels like our effort is making zero difference. James Clear calls this the plateau of latent potential.
The best way to understand this is to just imagine an ice cube. It's sitting in a room that's, say, 25 degrees. You start to slowly raise the temperature. 26 degrees, 27. You're putting in the work, you're adding the heat, but from the outside, absolutely nothing is happening. And this right here, this is where most of us quit. We've been going to the gym for a month, but we don't see any changes. We've been studying for weeks, but we still feel totally lost. It feels like all our effort is just wasted. The ice cube is still just an ice cube. This gap between what we expect and what we see is often called the valley of disappointment.
But here's the secret. Your work wasn't wasted at all. It was just being stored. All that energy was building up. See, the real powerful outcomes are often delayed. The big change, the melting, it doesn't happen until you finally hit that 32-degree tipping point. Pushing through that plateau is what finally unlocks all the potential you've been building up the whole time.
Okay, so how do we actually stick with our habits long enough to get through that plateau and see the results? Well, Clear gives us this incredibly simple 4-step framework, and it's all based on the actual science of how our brains form habits. It's just elegant and so practical. So every single one of your habits follows this same feedback loop in your brain. First, there's a cue, something that triggers you to act. That leads to a craving, which is the motivation. Then you have the response. That's the habit itself. And finally, you get a reward, which feels good and tells your brain, hey, let's do that again. So to build good habits, all we have to do is take control of this loop.
All right, law number 1, make it obvious. We think it's all about motivation, but our environment is often what really guides our behavior. So use that to your advantage. Design your space to make the cues for your good habits totally unmissable. You want to practice guitar more? Don't leave it in the case in the closet. Put it on a stand right in the middle of your living room. The easier it is to see the cue, the more likely you are to do the thing.
Next up, the second law, make it attractive. Our brains run on dopamine, right? We're way more likely to do something if we think it's going to be enjoyable.
A fantastic way to do this is with something called temptation bundling. You just pair an action you need to do with an action you really want to do. So, for example, you tell yourself you can only watch your favorite show on Netflix while you're on the treadmill. You're literally bundling the temptation with the habit.
Now, the third law is an absolute game changer. Make it easy. We are all wired to follow the path of least resistance. It's just human nature. So lower the friction for your good habits. The best way to do this is with the 2-minute rule. You scale your new habit down so that it takes less than 2 minutes. Read before bed every night just becomes read 1 page. Go for a run becomes put on my running shoes. Just master the art of starting, and the rest will naturally follow.
And finally, the fourth law, make it satisfying. This is the big one. The cardinal rule of behavior change is that what gets rewarded immediately gets repeated. Our brains love instant gratification, so you have to give yourself an immediate win. A super simple way to do this with a habit tracker. Get a calendar, and every time you do your habit, you put a big X on that day. That little X gives you a shot of satisfaction, visual proof you're making progress, and your goal becomes so simple. Just don't break the chain.
Now, here's where all of this gets really deep. These 4 laws, they aren't just a collection of life hacks to get you to do more stuff. They're actually a roadmap to becoming someone new. And this is the most important part of changing your behavior for good.
Just look at the difference here. Most of us set outcome-based goals. The goal is to run a marathon or to write a book, but a much more powerful way is to set identity-based goals. The goal isn't just to run a marathon, it's to become a runner. The goal isn't just to write a book, it's to become a writer. You see the shift? True, lasting change is identity change. You're not just chasing a result, you're literally becoming a new version of yourself. And this is the crucial link. Your habits are how you physically embody that new identity. Every single time you make your bed, you are embodying the identity of an organized person. Every time you go to the gym, you are embodying the identity of a healthy person. Your daily actions are literally providing evidence for who you are becoming.
And that brings us to what I think is the most powerful sentence in the entire book. James Clear puts it perfectly. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. Every tiny habit, every small good decision, it's like you're casting a ballot for your future self. And over time, those votes add up and define who you are. So that really just leaves us with one question. This isn't about completely reinventing your life by tomorrow. It's about taking that one next small step. It's about casting that one next vote. So let me ask you, what one tiny vote are you going to cast for the person you want to become today?